Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge in the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2023 Arnold Palmer Invitational. This is going to be my preview show where I go through all my research, custom stat models. We're going to dive into my betting card. I've got a giveaway for the players that I want to review with you. Of course, we're going to recap the Honda that we just got to watch. And with all that said, thank you for stopping by. Give me about 30 minutes. We'll get through all this information and let's go talk a little golf. All right, real quick. What is the giveaway that I'm giving away? Well, you guys are used to this. I typically around the major season and for the players. And what am I giving away? I am giving away $100 to 3 different random winners. And all you need to do to get into the entry is click that like button. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber because I need you to put in the YouTube comments below. Who do you think is going to win the players? So real quick recap, I'm going to pick 3 people randomly through a generator. I'm going to give you $100 directly into you for cash to do whatever you like. And all you need to do is click that like button, subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and tell me in the YouTube comments, who do you think is going to win the players coming up next weekend? All right, so real quickly, let's recap the Honda. For me, I really enjoyed the tournament. I really enjoyed Sunday. Of course, it always helps when you have a playoff, but there was a lot of different storylines that I think, makes the PGA what it is. First, you got Chris Kirk there who battled some demons years back, got sober, as you probably heard multiple times on the broadcast, and is hoisting a trophy for the first time in 8 years, right? I mean, there's a lot of times that I picked Chris Kirk to win at the RSM, which has a great history there, also some miscuts, but has been a past winner, a lot of top fives, and there's some interesting information that I kind of wanted to glean. If we ever have another tournament at the PGA National, I'll discuss that. Also ties in Tyler Duncan. And then, of course, it all came down, we had the 18th hole in regulation where this gentleman here, Eric Cole and Chris Kirk, had opportunities to win. And Eric Cole actually had the best where Chris Kirk threw it in the water. You had Eric here who had a chip for his third shot and just hit it too far. It ran through, got, in a kind of a tough position against the rough line and could only make par. Of course, Chris Kirk bogeyed the hole. They went to a playoff. And then from there, right, you had, again, it looked like Eric Cole had the best opportunity to win that thing when Chris Kirk shot it behind the tree, but he punched out, had 100 yards in, stuck a wedge a foot away, and that was pretty much the end of it. And Eric, all he could do was par the hole, missed his first putt within 20 feet, still had a chance to birdie and keep the playoffs going, but didn't happen. And then, side note, Eric Cole was not on my radar. I had one of you folks reach out to me and asked about Eric Cole, and he was not on my view. And the reason why, if you look here, he's had about 14 events on the PGA Tour. He kind of came out, had a rough start, 4 missed cuts. He never won on the Korn Ferry Tour. And if you see what made me nervous was this off the tee. Never has he gained in a PGA event any strokes off the tee, and really not the greatest with his irons. And so there wasn't a lot there for me to say, hey, yeah, I recommend this guy and I'm going to play him. I did not play him in the bigger game. I did, of course, play him a little bit during the weekend once I saw that he was having, 4 days of pretty much his life at this point. But you can see he flipped the driver and was gaining strokes off the tee against the field. And what really helped him was just amazing with the putter, especially under really crazy, stressful times. The guy made a lot of big putts, but gained about 8.5 strokes on those Bermuda greens. And then again, set a record for him, at least with gaining with the irons over almost 4.5 strokes. And so you put all that together, and that's going to give you a good finish, especially in the field that we just had. And then another story was, of course, you had this Ryan Gerard, which again was on nobody's radar because he Monday qualified and he was not even in Fantasy National to even, pull him up. And I'm not really sure from the 4-day event if you could even roster him. I know during Showdown you could. Maybe he wasn't there. I didn't notice. I wasn't looking at the bare bones 6,000. Typically, that's where a Monday qualifier fits. But like the Rocket Mortgage a few years back when Nate Lashley and Doc Redman qualified, like one qualifier, one alternative, out of nowhere and took a 4th place finish. So another amazing storyline, someone that, we were introduced to now, like an Eric Cole, if you didn't know who that was beforehand. And then the last thing I'll say, Tyler Duncan coming out and getting a 3rd solo finish. He won actually back at RSM, was his first and only win on tour. And so what's kind of funny, what I noticed, is I already had RSM where at Seaside where they play as a good comparable course. but I think it might be one of the top comparable courses if we ever have another tournament at PGA National. As you heard probably multiple times, the Honda, kind of ended its agreement with the PGA after 42 years. Who knows if, these elevated events and where it got stuck had part of it. From my understanding, what Jack Nicklaus said was that the PGA Tour has committed to keep a PGA Tour event in Southern Florida. We'll just have to see who the new sponsor is and what the course is. But if it's at PGA National, put a little note to yourself that you might want to look at guys who've done well at the RSM, hence the Seaside course. We're going to go up north a little bit in Florida to Orlando, about hour and a half drive up the Atlantic. And we are going, of course, to Arnie's place, and we are at the Bay Hill Country Club. This tournament, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, has been held there since 1979. If you're, whatever reason, interested, Dick Wilson was your original designer, and then, of course, Arnie did a bunch of redesigns. And we are at a big boy course, par 72, playing 7,466 yards. We got Bermuda across the board, fairways, rough, and greens. What I'm getting from the superintendent is that it's 3-inch rough. I was told that last year, and then actually the rough was around 4 to 5 inches. So that's something that we got to figure out as the week progresses. Hopefully we get some insights from the guys doing their pressers. This is an invitational, so it is 120 players only. We are sticking with the top 65 in ties. What does that mean? It's going to be a smaller field. Technically, you should have a better chance of getting 6 of 6 through. Historical cut line is somewhere between +2 to +4 here. And then you've got kind of a variance on the winning scores and winners. So, last year you had Scotty Scheffler shoot 5 under, and a lot of that due was the course setup was very difficult. We're going to get into this a little more as I get down here, but I'll leave it at that. And then you have Big Bad Bryson DeChambeau, who shot 11 under the year before and was just crushing drives. And then you had Terrell Hatton shoot 4 under because of crazy weather. And then you've had a Molinari, Francesco Molinari, at 14 under. You had a McIlroy shoot 18 under, and then a Leishman 11 under, and then he was a runner-up in 2020, but we don't really care about Mark Leishman now because he's on the LIV Tour. Same with really Bryson DeChambeau. A little more facts about the course. Huge greens, a lot like what you see at the Tournament of Champions at Kapalua. You got 7,500 square feet. You got a ton of sand at 84 sand bunkers, and you've got a lot of water again, as we are in Florida. You've got 8 water hazards, with 9 of those were actually coming to play, so 9 holes water comes into play. Step meter is telling me from, again, the superintendent that it should be running at 12. But if what we saw last year is that it got firm and fast, and it got up to 13. And the course defense is a lot what I want to talk about here. Is my understandings was that Bay Hill was trying to get the U.S. Open in the future to come play there. And so it was almost like the PGA director and the superintendent set that course up to show that it could be a U.S. Open course. Hence the crazy rough, and drying out the greens and the firmness, and the guys hitting a lot of good shots but not getting rewarded for it because of how fast and firm the greens were. And when I say fast and firm, I'm not saying the typical. I'm saying come Saturday, Sunday, they almost lost their greens, as in they almost killed them because of how firm and fast they made them. And I know, I watched from end to end that tournament, and you could watch from Thursday where Rory shot 7 under to by the weekend, there was no way in the world someone was shooting 7 under. So anyways, you also had some wind that came up, and Florida right now has been very dry. I just spent 10 days there not very long ago. I'm very curious, and what we don't know, at least I don't at this moment, are they going to go back to what we're used to at Bay Hill, where, you can actually hold the greens, and if you hit a drive in the fairway, that it will stay in the fairway. If it's like that, I'm shooting for more around a 10 to 15 under kind of score. If they are still trying to make this the U.S. Open light, then we're going to be right back to where we were. And so I'm going to run 2 different models because I know the model that I want if it's going to play like last year, and I know the model that I want if it's going to play like the previous year. So, but we don't know that yet until we get, like I said, hopefully some of the guys give us some feedback tomorrow and Wednesday on what the course setup looks like. There's going to have to be some further stuff on that. Some of the key things that you need to do here. You've got, you got these tough par 4s that you just have to manage. Just get your pars. You can attack the par 5s as typical. That's where you got to score. You got some very difficult long par 3s that you have to manage. The 3-putt avoidance is huge. Scotty Scheffler, when he won last year, only had 1 3-putt through the whole tournament. And the greens were just nuts. And like I said, so it's going to be very interesting. I'm I don't mind to watch a little bit of difficult golf, but what I was seeing last year was actually it wasn't even pleasurable or even fun to watch because you literally no matter how good the guys would hitting shots, that there was just nothing they could do, no matter who you were. It's like trying to stop it on cement. It wasn't going to happen. So we'll see how that goes. All right, real quick, just to get an understanding, if you've never seen this tournament or never seen the course, this is just a high overlook of the course map. It's only a couple things that I'll point out here. You got this very, it's a gettable par five, this number 6. And if you recall, this is where Bryson a couple years back, tried to carry it all the way to the green. He actually ended up over here to the right of the green. I would guess that carry somewhere around 320, something like that. The wind's got to be right. I think he was downwind. He stated that. He still ended up only birdieing the hole. So, how much you really gain from that. But of course, the guys will take off some of this. And what I also remember was, I don't know if it's 2 years ago, or maybe it was Rory. I don't remember. Like dumped one in the water, which really kind of affected his round, and he never really got back on it. You can see here 11, definitely water comes into play. I believe the easiest hole is this par 5, number 16, has the highest rate of eagles. You can see 17, that par 3, definitely water comes in to view. And then, of course, that kind of iconic 18 finishing hole where, it's the hardest hole in the course. And typically you're hitting, I don't know, somewhere around 230 typically into this green. And it's, of course, the pin's going to be tucked back here on Sunday. So, again, quite a bit of water that does come in play. The key holes would be, like I said, 11, 17, 18. You see 16 water in front of the green. You got 3 and 6. And then I guess 8 with the water in front of the green would be really the areas that water would come into play. All right, so if you want to understand the scoring, there is no birdie bonus kind of, shoot guys off 10. I don't see any kind of where you're going to win on that because it bookends on both sides. So you start out with 2 of the tougher holes on the course, and you finish with it 2, tougher holes in the course. So, I don't see any advantage, maybe I guess going off the front because maybe if you can get one on 9, you've got, 10, 11, 12. But really, if it's going to happen, it's going to be hole 10 through hole 13 is where these guys could string together 3 birdies, and that's about it. Also, you got a little easier run in the middle here on 4, 5, and 6. But it starts tough and it ends tough, and that's about the sum of it. I checked the scorecard against what the PGA put out this morning, and all the yardages are spot on from the previous year, so no updates there to worry about. All right, so from a skill set ranking, I kind of mentioned there's, I've got 2 different ways of approaching this. What you're looking at here is the stroke gain approach analysis ranking if the course played like it played the previous years before last year. And so number 1, ball striking, approach off the tee. I mentioned the putting, the 3-putt avoidance around the green. Proximity to pin at 200 plus and out comes in 30% of the time. So back to the ball strikers, definitely could do well here. The stroke gain on the par 4s, you got to manage the par 4s. And then, of course, make hay on the par 5s, which, that's no different on most par 72s. And last but not least, instead of looking at, guys that make a ton of birdies, we're looking at more guys that can avoid the big numbers and the bogey avoidance. So that's the skill set I will be putting together. And then to kind of verify that, I always look at the past winners. And you're getting kind of a hodgepodge. So this is 2020 when Hatton won, 2021 DeChambeau. When I say a hodgepodge, you've got guys that are, hit greens, good with the irons, like a Corey Connors. There's my Richard Wawrinski, who typically plots his way around long, and, he's not long, and he's not typically that great with the irons, but he does hit a lot of fairways. And when the putter goes, he can show up. But, again, as usual, you can get it done a couple different ways on this course, but ultimately guys that putt well, good with the irons and good around the green, do well. And then, like I said, DeChambeau, gained 7 strokes off the tee. Actually, it looks like both years. So you could also have that lean to the bomber squad. And it is a longer track, but where I'm going is if it's super dry like last year, you don't need the distance because if you just hit the fairway, it's going to run out. So if you hit it 280 in the fairway and it plays fast and firm, you're going to get 315 out there anyways. If we look at last year's stroke gain kind of analysis of what the winners did, you got Scotty, Victor Hovland, who I always said, like, Corey Connors, to me, somewhat a little bit of similar where they're, pretty elite off the tee, some of the better iron players. It's around the green and putting, but Victor, had showed that pretty well. You got Terrell Hatton that showed up again here, of course, past winner. Chris Kirk, you're going to see, has done actually, funny enough, very well here. And again, back to more of your kind of strategic plotters, if you want to say, where Chris Kirk doesn't hit it long, but typically hits fairways. pretty decent with the irons, but can be very good around the green. And when the putter goes like it just did, he can definitely show up there. You got the Gary Woodlands now back to distance ball strikers, and he just was able. He kind of had that run in Florida where he gained with the putter on two different tournaments, which is pretty rare for him. You got Gooch on the live, but a really good ball striker again, very good from that 200 plus out. You got Lucas Herbert, where I'd put him more on the round of green putting. Same with Fitzpatrick, but has gained distance off the tee. Then you got Sammy Burns, who typically elite ball striker, but has not really showed up yet this year, and always typically putts well on Bermuda. So, with all that said, irons is typical around the green, and putting I think are the keys. And I'm not as worried about guys that could bomb it out there. Put my weightings a little bit more on working your way from the green back. And then last but not least, if you want to know from a total stroke gain, which would be taken off the tee, approach, around the green, putting, all that, over the last 5 tournaments here, who's done the best? Funny enough, Rory comes up number 1, Chris Kirk number 2, Fitzpatrick, Sungjae Im, Terrell Hatton, Keegan Bradley, Fleetwood, Seabez, Hoffman, Scheffler, Killer Keith, Mad Max, Victor Hovland, Patrick Rogers, who WD'd for I don't know why, out of the Honda, and then Corey Connors with 2 good finishes here just recently. And then I pointed this out almost more for the showdown guys, and I'll probably get sucked into this, but typically I don't play Rory on round 1 showdowns, but at this course, he has showed that he's been the best since 2018 in his first rounds. And last year he came out and shot 7 under, made a ton of long putts, which you'll notice here. He made his longest eagle putt ever at 40 feet. And then I also saw he drained a 50-footer for a birdie. So he made, hundreds of feet of putt that day, hence, the 7 under, where the other guys were around 4 or 5 under that were up on the board. But yeah, long story short, he typically comes, what it's saying here from past history is he starts off fast here. Now, typically Rory doesn't do that. And we've also not really seen, at least the last 2 tournaments Rory's played in at Waste Management and the Genesis, where he's, kind of been ho-hum. He had the win, of course, on the DP. I think it was at the Dubai. It was a Dubai Desert Classic. It doesn't matter. It was a pretty good field at the DP World Tour that he won. But since then, and I think that was in December. So he hasn't done a whole lot, I guess, to say in January, February so far. But definitely not counting him out. As we know with these guys with this elite talent, at any moment, the switch can flip, and then watch out. All right, so real quick, let's go through the custom stat models. And what you're looking at here is, I'm looking at the last 6 tournaments these guys played, or 24 rounds. I've got no filters turned on. We are looking at recent form. And this model is the one that I kind of described in that skill set breakdown where, approach, ball striking off the tee, and putting. So you got, 15, 15, and then weighted at 10, 10, 10. You got around the green, 3-putt avoidance, that proximity from 200 out. You got gaining strokes on par 4s, gaining strokes on par 5, of course, trying to mitigate the bogeys. And then fairways gained is crucial at this course. Either way, the rough is always pretty tough here, no matter if it's 3 inches, 4 inches, whatever it does. If you plug that in and hit calculate, what comes out is John Rahm, number 1. You got Jason Day, past winner here, Tony Finau, Patrick Cantlay, who showed up at the Genesis. You got Xander Schauffele, who's a bit like Rory. It's been a kind of a very slow start to the year. You got Colin Morikawa, Max Homa, Sungjae Im, Will Z, who seems like he's getting better and better with each tournament. Right, he was hurt for a while, and kind of make it his resurgence. You got Tom Kim, Scotty Scheffler, your past winner here. Rory McIlroy, Wyndham Clark, Tom Hoge, and then, of course, Chris Kirk, who just won the Honda. That is your top 15 players, recent form, looking at the past 6 tournaments they've played in against this model and this weighting that you see below. All right, now, as I mentioned, what the course played like last year, I would go with a different model, and I'd slim it down quite a bit. And I call this kind of the U.S. Open conditions, because literally that's what was going on last year. And I would really put an emphasis on fairways gained at 20%, approach at 25%, ball striking at 15%, putting at 15, around the green at 10, short game at 5, and proximity from that 200 out at 10. And kind of what you see is I emphasized a little more around the greens and not concerned about distance at all, just hit the fairways. And if you're curious who's been doing that, again, over the past 6 tournaments with no filters turned on, Max Homa's number 1, Jason Day, Mr. John Rahm, who's got 5 wins out of his past 9 tournaments, something ridiculous like that worldwide. You got Tom Kim, Tony Finau, Colin Morikawa, Mr. Hoagie, Sanjay M, Patrick Cantlay. Side note, Tom Hoagie at the Genesis on Poa Greens just actually putted lights out. Had to struggle with the irons, but for whatever reason, typically Tom Hoagie's not good with the putter. He gained strokes. I don't remember the exact number, but gained quite a bit with the putter. Patrick Cantlay, as I mentioned again, making kind of a resurgence. Xander is still on a bit of a, I don't know, floundering, I guess is the way to put it. You had Adam Hadwin, who showed up, I believe that was the Waste Management with Nick Taylor, right? We're up there. Chris Kirk, Will Z, Siwoo Kim, and Adam Svensson, who struggled on Sunday, and I believe shot like +4 at the Honda, which kind of stunk. Okay, now the next thing that I always look at is we looked at recent form, and we looked at it 2 different models. So I know you're saying, hey, which one am I supposed to use? I will come out when I do my picks. I will tell you which model I'm going with. I'm going to have that out either tomorrow or Wednesday. I need to first find out what is this course playing like. So once I get that information, you guys will know, and then I'll be able to kind of assess going forward. But history at Bay Hill, again, now this is only looking at the past 3 tournaments they played here because, you know, for some of these guys, that could be 6-7 years back, right? So I want, if possible, the most recent information or data. And number 1 against that model would be Rory McIlroy, Terrell Hatton, Emiliano Grillo, who's also been in a bit of a funk, to say the least. Chris Kirk, Fitzpatrick, Homa, Keegan, Scheffler, Connors, Will Z, Sanjay M, Matsuyama, Spieth, Hovland, and Hoagie. And again, if you did not watch the Honda, Sanjay M hit the ball well, just could not make putts, and that's typically for me Sanjay M. If I play him, the guy can't make a putt. If I don't play him, the guy's draining everything. And typically that shows up on Showdown more than I would think over 4 days. But yeah, the putter is what kind of really held him back. All right, the next thing that you're going to want to look at, or I like to really focus on, is who's the best ball strikers in the field. Now, this typically helps when we have a weaker field. Because we have such a strong field, the majority of these guys are really good ball strikers. But if you want to know the top 15 ball strikers in this field over the past 6 tournaments, Scotty Scheffler, Xander, Woodland, Rahm, Rory, Finau, Morikawa, Will Z, Day, Cantlay, Lucas, Hardy, Hoagie, Clark, and Killer Keith, who's also been playing some pretty good golf. Pretty similar list to what we've been looking at. So, kind of staying on par with what we've already kind of looked at. Now, this will kind of change up a bit. If you want to know who's been the best putters on Bermuda, go back, could even, probably into the FedEx Cup, I would guess. Shouldn't go too much further than that. You got Ben Taylor, who was a pick of mine last week and had a good showing. I think he ended up somewhere around 9 under, which I think got him somewhere around like 6th, 7th place, something like that. You got Terrell Hatton, Bo Hosler, who's kind of, Jekyll and Hyde, depending on the day. You got Sammy Burns, Aaron Wise, which that's crazy because Aaron Wise has been horrific with the putter. Taylor Montgomery, who I have not bet on, but I might be interested in that. Lucas Herbert, Andrew Putnam, Kevin Kisner. You got Alex Noren and Thomas Detry, who Noren WD'd before the tournament. And then you had Thomas Detry at 20% ownership in the big GPP game. Shot 4 over the day 1 and then WD'd. I had no explanation, but of course it killed a lot of our lineups. And then there was a lot of speculation, if you are on Twitter, that his best buddy Thomas Peters, who just went to the Live Tour, maybe Detry was pulling out to go over to the Live Tour. That could actually still be happening. I have not seen anything yet, but definitely was kind of the buzz out there. You got Tommy Fleetwood, Troy Merrick. Of course, Eric Cole pops up. And I mentioned, if you look at Eric Cole from the stats for the 14 tournaments that we do have, he has gained a bit when he does putt on Bermuda. The rest of his game, just went off at the Honda. And who knows, maybe that's to come, or that could be a one-off. And then Sammy Ryder, who's been playing great golf. And I just remember here, I think it was day 1, he holed an iron shot from like 160 for eagle. And then, right before that, he holed out at for that number 16 at the Waste Management par 3. Also had that hole in 1. So as always, Sam Ryder can be just deadly with the irons. And it looks like the putter's been working too over the past 36 rounds. So past 9 tournaments. When I do putting, I always take a larger sample because, that kind of shows you who is truly pretty good on it. But then again, you can go to Aaron Wise right now, who's been bad on every surface with the putter. All right, now to the comp courses. And my little public announcement on this, as I typically do, is I really like these comp courses. The problem is these comp courses, except for Wells Fargo, does not draw this elite of a field. So if you think of like the Valspar, where you've had Sam Burns win back-to-back, before that you had Paul Casey win back-to-back. Elite ball strikers, and Burns definitely a better putter than Paul Casey, but he somehow really could read those greens, I guess. And then you got like the Keegan Bradleys, who's also done well at Valspar, has also, had a chance to win at Sanderson Farms. Where I'm going with this is that, because this field is so strong at Bay Hill, that those guys don't play a lot of these events again, except the Wells Fargo. And then even if you look at the Wells Fargo the last couple of years, haven't been the greatest. But you got like Max Homa, who's won that. Of course, Rory's won Wells Fargo. So where I'm going with this list is going to be a little biased to these kind of courses to the left. And, could they do well here? Yes, I have no problem with that. I'm just saying, don't put all your weight into this because, hey, a lot of the rest of the field don't play those other courses, like the Schefflers, the Rahms, the Rorys, the big names. So don't get nervous if you don't see them up here. But that is the guy. So if you want to know, going off these comp courses, of course, Keegan, Rory, Emiliano Grillo, Corey Connors, Victor Hovland, Jordan Spieth, Chris Kirk, Streelman, Rose, Hoffman, Woodland, Ricky, Scheffler, Molinari, Burns. And then I do remember Grillo had a shot at winning to Sanderson. I believe that would be a year ago now. And then, of course, the putter kind of bit him towards the end of the rounds. All right. So with all of that said, if you are curious, this is me looking at the high odds. Where am I seeing the value on the board early? There's some super long shots, and then there's the ones that are kind of more like, hey, actually have a shot of winning. And I'll go through this real quick. So the one that I like probably the most would be Tom Kim. If the course plays like it did last year, Tom Kim, the things that he does is he hits a ton of fairways, ton of greens. And what we're starting to see with Tom Kim is that the putter can definitely come and go. Now, I felt like early on in his PGA career, I even felt like the guy was a great putter. And I like how he putts. He's very aggressive. And I don't mind that at all. To where it seems like he either makes it or he's 3 to 5 feet by. Sometimes I can come back and bite you, but again, I don't mind that. But if the course plays, a little softer and is receiving, then, maybe he's not as good as a bet, because then I think some of the guys that have more distance might make a little more sense. But neither here or there. Kind of the same premise for Tom Hoagie. And then when you get to Victor Hovland, I'm just waiting for Victor to kind of flick the switch. Of course, he's had good showings here in the past. And, we just need that putter. Honestly, it's been the putter for him that's been kind of hurting him. But I like the 30-1. You had Tom Hoagie, which I think I actually got at 110. You got Tom Kim at 50-1. Again, I remember crazy field here. Russ Henley, I'm always typically going to bet Russ Henley when it's putting on Bermuda. And I know the irons can be an advantage for him. And he typically hits a lot of fairways. And so back to if it's the U.S. Open conditions, Russ could be alive there. And then he's like the Bramlett, the Molinex, the Scott Stallings, and the Shank are purely little tiny bets with big odds that if the course plays more, let's hypothetically say they get some rain or more receiving, I think it would be a fit for them that they could have a shot a little bit under the DeChambeau. Not saying these guys are as good as Bryson DeChambeau during this time when he won, but some skill sets are the same. The distance off the tee. I've watched, Bramlett has gotten, hot as a little bit hotter as late. Tromolnex, of course, he won last year, been playing a little better golf. Scott Stallings, almost more when we're in Texas. It seems like he shows up, but why not? He's got the distance. He can get hot with the putter too. And then Shank, really, whenever, he's got those kind of odds and he's on Bermuda and had a pretty good Honda showing, I don't mind betting him. So, with an eye more towards the value and higher odds, these are the guys that I've got in right now. Will I make a bet or two on some top 10s or, even maybe someone 20 or below odds, 20-1 or better? Yeah, I kind of wait now because it seems like what I've been noticing is they throw this out and then let the money kind of come in. And some of the guys that you might want to bet that are like right now 20-1 could get to 30-1. Hence like Minwoo Lee, who I think started at 25, got to 30 for the Honda Classic. With that said, that is everything I wanted to cover in the preview show. And also you got my betting. My plan is to get the pick show out tomorrow, but if I don't get any information before then on how the course is going to be playing or set up, I'm going to wait till Wednesday because, I'll be just guessing on, the analysis that I'm going to do. I don't want to give you guys like, well, I think it's this, but I'm going this way once I really find out. So, and then of course, this was, I mentioned that hole number 6. This was Bryson's drive where he got that ball speed up to 195. I guess from what I understand, I have not seen him in a little bit, that he is not bulked up like this anymore. I think he come to learn that that was going to be unsustainable, that it was going to take a toll on his body. So he got a couple wins under that, and I think I don't know. I don't know if he regrets it or not. He's got a U.S. Open and he's got a Arnold Palmer. As far as I know, he lost to Cantlay in the playoff at the BMW for the FedEx. So I think he has 2 wins, if I remember correctly, under his I'm all bulked up, Bryson DeChambeau. All right, guys, thanks so much for spending time with me. Don't forget to click that like button, subscribe if you're not subscribed, follow me on Twitter, and I've got that players giveaway. So if you're going to do all that, you might as well go ahead and tell me in YouTube comments, who do you think is going to win the players? Be interested to hear your thoughts, and you'll get entered into that contest to win $100 of my money to you. All right, guys, take care. Talk to you later.